Hello, my name is Kelsey Cowan, and I work for an organization called Boston After School and Beyond, which is a partner with the program that you work with. So Boston After School and Beyond supports this program's measurement and evaluation throughout the school year. And one part of that measurement work is the Survey on Academic and Youth Outcomes Teacher Version, or SAYO T. That tool was developed by the National Institute on Out-of-School Time, or NIOST. Now, the SAYO T is a tool that was developed to give teachers and program staff, such as yourself, an opportunity to assess the skill development of the youth that they work most closely with. Here are the 9 skill domains that are included in the SAYO T. And through that survey, you'll be asked to evaluate how often you see students demonstrate behaviors that are indicators of these skill domains. So we'll go into much more detail on these domains later on in the video and how you'll be assessing the youth that you work with in these skill domains. So the SAYO T is administered through a shared database called Cityspan Provider that also houses students' participation data, such as enrollment and daily attendance in the program. Your program's database administrator will send you a set of surveys for the students you work most closely with once in the fall semester, that will be the pre-assessment, and then they'll also send you one again in the spring semester, which will be a post-assessment. The fall semester pre-assessment is intended to provide a baseline for youth's social emotional skill levels, and the post-assessment in the spring will give the program an idea of how youth grow or developed throughout the school year in the skill domains covered by the SAYO T. So you will receive the SAYO T via an email directly from Cityspan Provider. It will come from a do not reply email address, donotReply@cityspan.com, and the alias will be administrator. Often the emails get overlooked as spam, so it's a good idea to be aware that this is the origin email. Additionally, it will contain the deadline for the SAYO T. You can see that for this school year fall's assessment, the deadline is November 18th. But keep in mind that this is a general deadline, and your own program may have a different timeline to complete these surveys. So in the email, you'll see a brief background on the survey and a link to access the surveys for each of the youth that you've been assigned. The link is down here. Clicking on the link will bring you to a list of those students and a status table for each of the surveys. Now, you'll notice that there is a survey round here, and depending on how many rounds you've participated in over time, you may have multiple rounds represented on this page. So I would just be aware of which survey round you're accessing when you click on the students' names to complete the survey. We have in the past had people input data into the incorrect survey round. Next to the students' names, you'll also be able to see a response status for each survey. Now, blank indicates that you have not yet begun inputting information in that survey. And then down here, you also have a saved. Saved indicates that you have begun the survey, but were not able to complete it. In that case, you're able to save the survey and proceed later. The final status is submitted, which indicates that you have completed the survey. Please keep in mind that once you have submitted the survey, it will lock, and you will not have any opportunity to change any of the ratings. So I recommend reviewing the completed survey one last time to make sure that the ratings are finalized before you hit the submit button. By the deadline provided by either your program or the general timeline, all response statuses should read submitted. So now let's take a look at the survey itself. We'll go into Charlie Barnett's page. At the top of the page is some more background on the SAYO T and also instructions on how to complete the survey. Now, as I mentioned before, the SAYO T asks you to evaluate how often you see specific behaviors in the youth you work closely with. So these behaviors are indicators of certain emotional or social emotional skills that identify the domains or sections of this survey. So you can see behavior in the classroom here, initiative, engagement in learning, etc. You'll see that the scale used to evaluate each youth spans from never seeing this behavior in the youth that you're assessing to always seeing this behavior in the youth that you're assessing when given the opportunity. It's important to note that you should only assess a behavior if the program has given the youth an opportunity to demonstrate that behavior. For example, under behavior in the classroom, you'll see works well independently when expected to do so. If your program focuses primarily on group activities and so the student is never really asked to work independently, you will not have the opportunity to observe that behavior during your interaction with the youth and therefore don't have sufficient evidence to answer or rate this behavior. Now I'm going to go through each domain separately to give you a bit more detail on it. I'm not going to go into too much detail, just kind of give you an idea of what the typical questions are. So you'll see here in behavior in the classroom, we have questions that touch on the youth's ability to control behavior and also how they react to different situations in the program environment, things like independent work or when a situation doesn't go their way. So now I'm going to go through each domain separately to just give you a bit more detail on it. I'm not going to go into too much detail, just want to give you an idea of the different indicators that are housed in each domain. So we have here behavior in the classroom, and here you'll see questions that touch on the youth's ability to control behavior, how often they or how they react to different situations in the program environment. So independent work time, or when a situation doesn't really go their way, how they react in that situation. In the next domain, initiative, you'll have questions that go over how often the youth sets goals and perseveres through difficult tasks. You'll answer how often they advocate for their needs, but also if they tend to try to figure things out for themselves before they ask for help. In the next domain, engagement in learning, you'll be asked to assess how often the student, demonstrates that they're interested in what's going on and actively participating in the program's activities. Problem solving, the next domain, asks how often students identify and describe a problem they face and about the extent to which they work to solve that problem. So are, they making their own effort to try out possible solutions? Are they coming up with multiple solutions? And also, are they demonstrating higher order thinking that's appropriate for their age group? Self-regulation, similarly to behavior in the classroom, touches on the youth's ability to control their behavior, but it also touches on their ability to reflect on their behavior. Are they being reflective, and can they think ahead? The communication skills domain includes indicators such as active listening, speaking clearly and loudly enough for everyone to hear, and contributing relevant information to, a program discussion or an ongoing discussion in the program environment. And then we have both relations with adults and relations with peers, and these domains ask you to assess how often youth interact positively with both program staff and other youth in the program. Now, the last section is the homework section, and this is not relevant for every program environment. Additionally, there are slightly different scales for this section. So for this kind of first portion of it, quality of homework assignments, you'll have a poor to excellent scale. And then down below, you'll have a few questions that one will have a never always scale, and then the last one will have a satisfied to dissatisfied to satisfied scale. So like I said, this isn't relevant for everyone. So if your program doesn't have a homework portion or doesn't assign homework, then you obviously won't be able to answer these questions. So although these, behaviors and these indicators are, fairly universal and might be pretty easy to spot in the program environment, the opportunities that your program provides in which you can demonstrate these behaviors may be different from another program or environment. So I encourage you to touch base with your team or your program director to really solidify the program-specific expectations in these behaviors. You know, what are we as a program looking for in order for a student to receive an always rating or a usually rating? In what opportunities in today's program are we expecting to see, you know, this behavior or that behavior? I definitely encourage you to chat with your team to really figure out what it is that your program expects for these SAYO T behaviors. So that's everything. I wish you the best of luck. I will note that each SAYO T probably takes about 5 minutes for you to complete on each student, depending on how much you have to think about that student, that youth's behavior in your program environment. You will have resources available to you in the email you receive. There will be a help desk contact, yshelp@bostonbeyond.org. And you'll also have some website information to learn more about the SAYO T. If you don't know who to ask for a specific question, I encourage you to reach out to your program director or program administrator, and they will contact me, I'm sure, if they can't answer the question themselves. All right, so best of luck. Have a good time. Good luck this school year, and I look forward to working more with you. Thanks, guys. Bye.